Hello, hello. How's everyone doing? Enjoying the snow? Just see if I can hear everything. Hello, hello, hello. Yeah, doing the mic check. Alright, look, everything's working. So let's see what we have today. We've been working a lot on back attacks, so looking at our sequences today. So we're just gonna finish the lesson off. We're gonna focus more on the back control today and some arm isolation drills, so you get a bit of a higher percentage finishing the chokes. But I'll quickly recap what we did on Monday and the days before. Okay, so we started off with our back escape lesson, where he taught us the difference between the strong side and the weak side. The main kind of thing to learn about this was just understanding that the overhooking side, which is the choking arm, that's our strong side, and the arm which is underneath, that's our weak side. Okay. Our strong side escapes. Knowing the escapes helps you a lot in the attacks as well. So yeah, strong side strategy was to control the choking arm, which is the arm on top, and try to loop it over our head and get our back to the mat. So that was our strong side escape. Again, I'm going to blast through these because we did them on Monday, so we can move on to today's class. Weak side strategy here. So this time I'm going to the other side, back to the mat, push the legs. That's our kind of first attempt of escape. We looked at what happens when a person only has one hook and what we should try to do, and we came up with spinning is the best answer. So try to barrel roll to prevent the person from getting the second hook in and get your back to the mat. That's the same move, but just showing that you can do it both ways. Again, you have to protect your neck, not get choked, all that kind of stuff. But again, just spin as much as you can, get your back to the mat, and you should be good. With double underhooks, we kind of change our strategy a bit. We're gonna start bridging onto the person and then try to escape. Gives you a better kind of window to try to get out. Alright then, Steve. Just in time. Double overhooks. We won't come across this too much, but it does happen sometimes, especially when someone's trying to choke you. It's not a good idea, but if they bring both of their arms over the top, just slide down their body. They don't have very good control over you. And we looked at some submission counters. The first one was the triangle armbar counter, which we just said expect the leg to come over and kind of intercept it halfway through. Moving on. These are just, I'll quickly show them again. I'm going to blast through it so we can go to today's class, but a lot of people set up their rear naked choke the wrong way, and you can kind of save yourself by grabbing their wrist if they expose it. We looked at a quick bow and arrow counter, which was to break the grip on the trousers and spin. And we also looked at how to kind of seatbelt properly. This is the wrong way, where my choking arm is on top of my wrist. For beginners, that kind of gives you easy exposure to the top arm, which you can get out a lot easier than if they do it the right way. But this was Monday's class. We looked at the actual attacks. We had the single wing, which is the gi version that we do. We try a cross collar choke. If that doesn't work, we bring that arm towards us and we set up our kind of choke there. Standard cross collar. This is the first one we kind of get taught. Open up the gi, feed it to your other hand. Get your grip as deep as possible. And the biggest tip is come up on your elbow so you can use your wrist instead of your whole arm to finish. Bow and arrow. This is mostly leg work. Make sure the person's not leaning on top of your leg. So notice how I bring both of my feet to the opposite side and then I go for the bow and arrow. And we had one little last one, which was the arm triangle, which is the last ditch move. This is where instead of giving up on the back, you can try to set up this arm triangle towards the end if the person is escaping. This is kind of the stuff we're going to look at today in a bit more detail. So I won't focus too much on it right now. But that was Monday's and Friday's class from last week and Monday this week. Any questions so far, fire them away. Otherwise, I'll be moving on to today's class. But just to recap, everyone here should know what the strong side and the weak side is by now. And today we're just going to look at kind of maintaining the back, but also looking at a few more attacks that are a bit higher percentage, and it's going to be focused mainly in no gi, but all of these moves you'll be able to do it in gi as well. Okay, so we already learned most of the rules from the back, the strong side and the weak side, how to hold the seatbelt correctly. Now we're just going to look at some drills that are going to help you kind of maintain the back a bit more, and this is one of them. We call it the reset drill, strong to weak, which just means here she did a good job clearing one of my hooks. I could kind of stay in position and try to fight the hook back to get it back in, but in this case I'm going to be aware that she's already gotten her back to the floor. Okay, this is really important. Once her back is on the floor and she's lying on my leg, that's pretty much halfway for her escape there, and I need to react quite quick. So this is where I'm going to take my hook out, and if she was leaning on my leg, she currently isn't, but if she was leaning on my leg, I'm going to kick away from me by using a little butterfly hook there to turn her to the side so I can do my chair sit, where I slide my right knee as close as possible to her head and I throw my leg over the top, and then reset the drill onto the weak side. So again, I'm here, she falls to the strong side, she starts escaping, I take the hooks out, roll up on top and do my chair sit back take, and we end up on the weak side at the end of the reset. So I started on the strong side, but I'm going to end up on the weak side on this one. Okay. This is kind of the strong side variation of it. Again, I think it's going to be the same clip. Yeah, same clip. So regardless of what escape she does on, regardless of what side she picks to take her back to the mat, will determine my two escapes. Okay, so my two resets, they're a bit different from my other. So again, this is the same one from a different angle, just so you can see, but exactly the same. The weak side is where it gets a bit more complicated. So this variation here. So this time I've I'm on the underhooking side, so that means that when she gets her back to the floor, she's kind of leaning on my arm and I'm kind of stuck there. Now there's two ways to reset the drill. I forgot to film one of them, but this is the kind of later one, I'd say. The first one would be to do exactly the same as this, as the strong side one, where we kind of get up on top and do this. But because she's leaning on our arm, it's a little bit more difficult. You'd have to base on your head instead and do that whole reset. Okay. Instead, I'm going to do here the north-south variation, which is I'm going to get out completely and I'm going to go to north-south. Then I'm going to roll up to my knees so I can sit her up, and I got back exposure again. And again, I'm trying to lean towards the weak side every reset that I do. One more time. She starts getting to the back. I dismount this back. And then I reset again. The reset battle here could be a bit difficult because we have no hooks. It won't be as easy as I'm making it seem here. But you do have a quite good chance to get the back again. So that would be our weak side reset. So again, notice the difference between the strong variation and the weak. The strong one, I stave my seat belt, roll up on top, slide my knee in, and reset. And then the weak one, I go completely to north-south, sit her up, and then go for the back again. But like I said, you could try the strong one on the weak side as well. It's a little bit more difficult and you get a bit more stuck, but it can be done as well. 3/4 guard reset. This is probably the most common one that people use. This is where they realize it's pretty much the same as the strong side one, but instead of taking the leg out, they just keep it in. They go to 3/4 mount, and then the important one here is this knee riding up as high as it can, so that when you chair sit, you can pull the person straight into the back again. So one more time. Same as the strong side one. Slide, take the back. Now there's downsides and good things about this. The only kind of downside to this kind of reset is if you don't have a very good seatbelt position, the person can suck their arm out through this gap and you kind of end up in possibly deep half or 3/4 mount of some sort. They could also turn into you, so it's a bit your main kind of goal here is to keep the person on their side by using your knee, your arms, and your chest. Okay. Any questions about these resets? We'll be moving on to the isolations now. I'll quickly play all of them again. Someone's opening my gate. So that's our strong side to weak side drill. Same thing from different angle. This is our weak side reset, the late one. Early one, you can try to do the same thing. And we have our 3/4 guard. Cool. So these are kind of what makes you kind of good at maintaining the back, because you're able to reset and know when the person has escaped, before they escape, so you have a better chance of kind of staying on the back instead of losing it. A lot of beginners, they kind of see the person getting out here, and then they would just lie there trying to pull the person back to the middle, or just kind of like trying to maintain the position. They often cross their feet, just trying to hold on, or they just try to come up on top to kind of mount. Instead, they should be thinking about how to reset the position to get the best kind of possible outcome. So someone very good at back takes, they're usually very good at maintaining the back like this. So they'll be able to follow you for every escape that you kind of try. And often it ends up with them doing these next moves that we're gonna kind of look at. Okay. We talked about the weak side a bit last lesson, and we saw how kind of effective it was in terms of it has a little bit more options. So if you can see all of these reset drills, I'm always leaning towards ending on the weak side. So whatever variation we have, when I pull the person back, I'm always kind of ending up on the weak side there. Okay, reason is because of these next kind of isolation drills. First up is our standard one arm choke. This just teaches you the importance of controlling the underhooking side and getting into a habit of isolating this wrist straight away. So every time you take the back, instead of holding on to a seat belt, start like this. Start isolating the wrist as soon as you kind of collapse to the floor. So here, first of all, I set up my triple threat or my body triangle. Now we're gonna see the hand fighting, and there it is. I'm just holding the bottom wrist anytime I can. And then our first standard choke is the one arm choke, where if we can get underneath that chin, we just finish the match there. So again, we do our reset drill where I take the back, isolate the bottom wrist, and go for your standard choke. So next up is our ultra isolation. Again, we took a look at this last time, but same scenario here. Oh, that's the wrong one I wanted. Didn't want this one. Might have named them wrong. Ooh. That's not the one I want either. Might be this one. I think I put the same click 3 times by accident. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Hold on. I should have it somewhere. Here it is. Cross grip. Has to be this one. Here it is. Alright, this is the one I wanted, not that one. Let me just delete it before I forget. So we did our one arm choke, which was this one. We control the bottom wrist, and we choke with the top arm. The next one should be this one. Perfect. Alright. So in this case, we do exactly the same as before, where we isolate the bottom wrist and we go for the choke. But instead of finishing the person here, they're doing a very good job pulling my wrist down. Okay, so we're gonna use that energy to trap their arm. And then again, we just go back to the choke, just like we did. So that's what we call the ultra kind of isolation. Ultra, just because we're trapping both of these arms in this case. The standard one arm choke, we only trap one of their wrists, which is this one. And we just get underneath their chin. For the ultra one, we trap both of their arms so they have less escape windows. So here, she defends, trap the second arm, then I go back to my choke. That's the main difference between them two. The next one is where it gets a bit more tricky to kind of understand, but I'm calling it a cross grip scenario. Okay, you can do this anytime. It doesn't have to be at a certain kind of indicator, but the cross grip scenario just means instead of going for our standard kind of protocol, which was to trap the bottom wrist, just like in this video here, where we trap the bottom wrist right on the underhooking side before we do anything, which is there. In the cross grip scenario, we break this rule, so we don't really need this. We're just looking for this cross grip. Okay, so we're just gonna watch it now. So here, there's gonna be a bit of hand fighting. Again, it can happen like that, or it could be a long hand fight until you get it. But you can see I just used my top arm to push the hook down, and then I passed it to my left hand. So right arm pushes the wrist down, left arm takes the wrist, and then we have this 2-on-1 kind of cross grip style. Again, one is not better than the other, but this is a lot easier to remember than having to do all of that arm stuff. But sometimes you have to switch between one of them too, because the person is defending a bit better. But once you got the cross grip, we're doing exactly the same thing. We're using our legs to trap the arm. We let go of the wrist, cross our feet, and now it goes back to the same thing. We're going to control the bottom wrist again, and then go for that choke. So we kind of just end up doing the same kind of variation there. A lot of people are going to turn their chin away to start defending, and you're going to have to get a bit nasty by trying to get your hand underneath their chin to finish the move. Or you can just gas mask them, depending on the tournament. So one more time, the cross grip scenario, we just care about this wrist over here. So do whatever you can to get a 2-on-1 on it, trap the arm, and go for your choke. Any questions about those isolation drills? I know they're confusing, but should be able to see the difference between them. Happy with those? Quickly show it one last time. Here's our standard 1-arm choke. Control the bottom wrist. And go for your choke. We have our ultra one. Yeah, it takes a bit of practice to get them. The hand fighting gets a bit confusing. And I haven't really taught, well, I talked a little bit about the leg work and your body positioning last time. But make sure that your head is underneath theirs. You've got a nice seatbelt position. And you're a little bit kind of leveled with them. And that's our cross grip. Now all of these have been from the weak side, so we took a lot of our moves We looked at it in detail from the weak side. So next up is our strong side isolation drills. Which is fairly similar. There's not you're gonna see what's going to happen here. But again, when the strong side this time, and I'm gonna control the bottom wrist just like we did before. I've already got my kind of triple threat position or body triangle, anyone that you can. Hold on, froze. And I'm gonna start my isolation drill this time by just going for the kind of top side there on the hooking. So there, I push that down and I trap it with my legs. Okay. There's a couple ways to trap it, but you can cross your feet or you can hook behind their back. Depends on your size and the person's shoulders and how small they are. Find one that feels a bit tighter. But this is where it gets a bit complicated, okay? I could go for a standard rear naked choke here. I should have filmed it. But a lot of times you try to go for a rear naked choke here and you see that it's really tough to get your arm behind her back because you're not in a pretty great position. And if Kirsten was to get her back to the mat and look towards me, it'll make it even harder for me to choke her. So instead, in the strong side, once we get that arm isolated, our whole goal is to turn the strong side to the weak side. So you're going to see it happening now. I'm going to switch my arms and I'm going to get up on my elbow and get my head to the other side. That was really important, that transition there. So if you watch it again, my head is currently on this side. I'm going to switch my arms, pull her, and get her to the other side. And you can see often you get this little gap here. So you can shoot your arm through. And now we made everything go back to the weak side, just like we did before. I'm going to isolate her wrist. And I'm going to go back to my one arm choke now. So one more time, that one is a bit complicated, but bear with me. Trap the arm. Switch the sides. Get your head to the other side. Look for that underhook. Trap the wrist. And then you'll be back home in our favorite kind of side. So that's our strong side to weak side choke. Now, you could basically, for the strong side, there's not many other options here. Like I said, in terms of my arm isolation, this is the only arm that you can isolate, because the other arm is underneath and your leg is kind of stuck. So this is the best that we can come across. In terms of chokes, you could try a rear naked choke here right now, but again, it's a bit of a funny angle. And if the person starts shrimping and getting their back to the mat, it's going to be even harder to choke them. So your kind of best and almost only option would be to turn this into a weak side. Now we come across a little problem here, which is this stage here, where I pull her up and she's up on her elbow. Now she could tuck her elbow in, and that won't give me enough space to kind of get underneath her arm. And often she can start getting her back to the floor again, or even spin, which is the more common. Whatever she does, your whole goal is just to follow her, okay? If she does any sort of movements towards this direction, it's usually very bad for her. One, because she's using that elbow to post, that means she can't defend this arm. So right now I can't really finish her, but any sort of transition she makes to that side, I could quickly lock up my rear naked choke, which is this stage here. So here we're doing exactly the same chain as before. I trap her arm, I change my arms, and I start coming up. She posts and she starts going with the movement, which is kind of trying to roll me off. And you can see she's posted on the elbow, which means as we spin, right now you can't see, I get to lock up my rear naked choke, and I get to finish her from there. So it's a silly mistake, but a lot of people do it. Now she posted really wide here. Most people are gonna kind of tuck their elbow in and kind of spin on their kind of forehead or something. But this could also happen. But like I said, that means she's not defending her neck. And we can lock it up right now. That arm is still isolated. And we get to finish the choke. Okay. So our strong side options there were, let's go to strong side. We have our standard isolation here, followed by a transition to the weak side. And if we can get a perfect weak side position, we're back to our ultra isolation. We can finish from there. I think it's the same move here. Yeah. Again, up, trap the wrist, got your choke. Your only other kind of option that happens is if the person starts spinning or turning. We're gonna follow them and lock up a choke towards the end. And triangle, so that's just a little bonus. But anytime you do your isolation moves, like I mentioned last time, from the weak side you could set up a triangle. So from here I'm gonna take a different approach this time. I'm gonna take this kind of Americana lock control, lock up my triangle, switch, go armbar or triangles from there. But always have this in your arsenal with the opposite, with the other stuff. And I'd rather start off with these chains, and if none of them work, we tend to move on to the triangle as our last, or armbar as our last little attempt to finish the match. Okay, so to recap today's class, first of all, before any kind of chokes and etc., learn your reset drills of how to control someone from the back. So you have our strong side reset to the weak side. We have our weak side reset to north-south. We have our 3/4 mount. I should put mount, no guard. Whoops. 3/4 mount reset. Come up on top, slide your knee up, and reset. Again, we're always ending up on the weak side, ready to do our isolation drill straight away. And here's our arm isolations. We have our standard one arm choke, which we're probably rarely gonna use. We're gonna mostly use it to set up our ultra isolation, which is I go for my one arm choke, she pulls on my arm, I trap her second arm. And here, if you don't have a strong one arm choke, forgot to mention, which is this bit here, you could take your wrist out and lock up a full rear naked choke. We have our cross grip scenario, which is forget all the isolation, just take a cross grip and trap it. Then go back to your primary wrist and then set up your choke. So you got two ways of remembering things there. Either go for the top isolation first or go for the bottom isolation first. Then from our strong side, trap the wrist and then just think, I need to make this into the weak side. So change your arms, pull the person up, set up your weak side again. Remember, they could start spinning at any point from there or turtling. So be ready to follow them if they turtle, so you can set up your rear naked chokes. And if none of that is working, we can go ahead and try a triangle, which is still gonna come across through the isolation drills. Control the elbow and lock it up. Okay, any last questions? So if there's no questions, I'm just gonna kind of go over through this no-gi match now before we finish, and I'm just gonna write some notes. That is the official lesson finish, guys, so if you want to go, you can go. This is any questions about the back control, you can just message me later or something, or ask away, but hopefully everything's clear here. Practice your reset drills, get good control of the back, look for your isolation drills, and then just know which side you need to do something. And if you want really nice details of that kind of stuff, watch kind of Gordon Ryan or John Danaher's back sequence, and you see all of these moves from there as well. But moving on, let's see what we messed up this week. So our gis are all wet, so there's no gi this time. Little dance to warm up. So no action is gonna be done here from standing. We're both bad. She does it. She's quick with the arm drags though. She gets a nice arm drag. And she sits back to get the back. Really nice little sequence there. Follows me. Let's see if she's been watching our back sequence. She does quite a good job here. So here, I turtle and I avoid her bottom hook there. I managed to reset and get my back to the floor. And you can see if she was to hold on to this, she'll kind of get squashed underneath or even kind of roll to the side. So she quickly lets go now, and she takes a seatbelt on the other side, which was very good. But since she didn't bring this knee up to do her back reset drill that we learned today, she loses the back. There. Don't know what happened there. Oh, I go deep half here. She tries to back step. I catch the leg. Unfortunately. Trying to weigh the guard here, but she kicks out. Nice drag by her. Start going for her legs. She keeps the pressure. Tries to switch sides. Gets caught by a little butterfly hook just at the end, unfortunately. Just as she's trying to switch sides. Just unlucky for her. Here we're just working on our drags that we've been trying to practice. Gets a sit-up guard. I backstep to a 411. She's really flexible. You can see her foot is already hooking mine to do the counter. I'm trying to fight it. She kicks my knee away. And she's out. Nice little sequence there. So here, let's see what happens. So she controls my knee there. Little side to side Toriada action. She's not letting me get close to her legs. And here she does something quite nice. She pulls my head down and jumps across my leg. Hip thrust and finishes it. I turtle to avoid the points. She just gets shaken off slightly. She's constantly kicking out my reverse de la Hiva hook. Knee slice attempt. Try a bit of octopus guard here. She hooks my leg. Does a good job keeping me in place. Tries to get my wrist to get my back to the floor. She gets it there. There she had a little bit of back exposure, but she didn't notice it. Accepts the top position. Let her practice her butterfly sweep on me. Little bit of a leg kind of attempt. Think I'm trying to berimbolo her. Miss it over there. She just slides out. Ends up bad for me. Little leg pummeling. Now she has a nice body lock position on me, but she kind of lets me kind of get this 3/4 position. 3/4 guard. Steps over and loses the body lock. So body lock is one thing we need to work on. Nice knee slice. Here again, she's really slow at noticing the back takes. Should be jumping to take my back, but she lets me Granby and reset. Ew, doing a bit of float pass. Try a rolling. Looks like it's a rolling back attack coming in. She shucks me off. Kicks me. And gets up on top. That was really nice. She's been trying this a bit. She's a reverse de la Hiva counter back take. Almost gets it here. but I end up on top. I try to counter her. Gets a nice drag. Over on this pass now. Back to standing pass. There's the head push again. Yeah, we need to come up for answer for the head pull. And I think the rest is just out of shot berimbolo matches. So from that row, we need to not let her grab our head as much as we can. For her, she needs to practice a bit of the back takes from side control. And the reverse de la Riva diving back take. So that's the notes I'm going to take from this week's row. And hopefully next week will get better. I'll keep you guys updated. But that is it for today, guys. Hope you enjoyed the lessons. Again, if you guys need any of the PowerPoints or any questions, just ask me. Send me a message or something. And again, if you got any rows for me to watch, send them my way and I'll kind of look at it. But have a lovely week. Enjoy the snow. Enjoy the cold. And I'll see you guys on Monday.